If you haven't seen the first part of the Wednesday recap, you can find it through the link in the description and the pinned comment. Season 2 opens with Wednesday tied up in a dark, eerie basement filled with porcelain dolls. Then the story jumps back 6 weeks earlier. We learn that Wednesday has finally mastered her psychic abilities with the help of the Book of Shadows, passed down from her ancestor, Goody Addams. Now in control of her visions, Wednesday decides to pursue her longtime goal, capturing Scalper from Kansas City, one of the most elusive criminals in America, known for leaving behind 11 victims. He earned his name because he uses his victims' hair to create doll-like figures. To begin her hunt, Wednesday sends Thing to the police station to steal a bowling ball that once belonged to the latest victim. By touching the ball, she uses her powers to discover Scalper's location and sets off for Kansas. At the airport, security alarms go off, and Wednesday is forced to hand over her hidden brass knuckles. The guards grow suspicious and scan her with a metal detector, uncovering more concealed weapons. In her bag, they also discover Thing, the living hand we already know from the first part. Wednesday insists it's just a prosthetic. In the next scene, she finally tracks down Scalper and tries to shock him with a stun device, but he blocks her attack. Suddenly, she is pulled into a vision, black tears streaming from her eyes. When Wednesday regains consciousness, she finds herself trapped in Scalper's secret basement, surrounded by his dolls. He enters with his tools, holding a doll crafted in her likeness, explaining that this is how he remembers his victims. After removing her gag, Wednesday calmly tells him she wants to show him one of her own creations. She looks at another doll, and in that moment, its eyes snap open. Thing bursts out from inside and ambushes Scalper, giving Wednesday the chance to free herself. Once Thing has subdued him, he notices the black tears on Wednesday's face. She warns him to keep this a secret. Then Wednesday picks up a knife and fixes Scalper with a sinister smile. After returning home, Wednesday sits in front of a newspaper clipping. The headline reads, "Scalper captured thanks to a mysterious girl." At the same time, she flips through Goody's spellbook, searching for answers about the black tears, but finds nothing. Her mother, Morticia, enters the room and reminds her that the new semester at Nevermore is about to begin. She also mentions that she looks forward to finally reading her daughter's novel, the same one Wednesday was writing back in Season 1. On the way to school, Wednesday's brother Pugsley, who now studies at Nevermore as well, proudly shows off his electrokinetic ability, the same gift their Uncle Fester has. Morticia and Gomez are thrilled, praising their son. When Pugsley wonders why his father didn't inherit this power, Morticia tells him that being an outcast is more about the soul than abilities. Wednesday, of course, only cares about how her brother's new skill can be useful to her. She decides to test his aim, ordering him to hit the letter O on a stop sign as they drive past, warning that if he misses, she'll toss him out of the car. Pugsley succeeds, but the shattered sign causes a traffic accident. The Addams family finally arrives at Nevermore. Morticia notes that this is the first time Wednesday has returned to school of her own free will. Wednesday replies that her real goal is to bend the school to her will. Soon we see just how famous she's become. Students swarm her, snapping photos and asking for autographs. Bianca steps in and uses her siren power to scatter the crowd. She explains that after Wednesday saved the school and defeated Crackstone, her story spread all over Nevermore. At that moment, the new headmaster, Barry Dort, approaches. He introduces himself, calls Wednesday the school's savior, and shares his plans to revive an old tradition, lighting a massive bonfire in honor of Nevermore's founders. He invites her to be the guest of honor, insisting he wants to restore the school's former glory, while also criticizing the previous headmistress, Larissa Weems. But Wednesday refuses his offer. The next scene introduces a private investigator named Carl Bradbury. He secretly photographs a couple having a picnic when a one-eyed crow lands on a tree nearby. Moments later, dozens more crows appear. Carl rushes back to his van, locks the doors, and makes a call. But when he turns around, the birds are already inside, and they swarm him. Back at Nevermore, in her dorm room, Wednesday is stunned to find that her roommate Enid has thrown a party. Enid greets her warmly before quickly sending the guests away. She then tells Wednesday about her summer break and gives her a black t-shirt as a gift. In return, Wednesday presents Enid with a doll she brought from Scalper's basement, explaining that it was made with real human hair. Enid awkwardly accepts the present. She goes on to share her goals for the school year, including joining the Nightshade Society. Wednesday, however, insists she plans to avoid people and focus on finishing a new novel. She even shows Enid the completed manuscript she's been working on for 2 years. At that moment, Ajax, Enid's crush from season 1 and now her boyfriend, knocks on the door. Enid hides while Wednesday opens it. Ajax asks if she has seen Enid, and Wednesday lies, saying she stepped out. He then leaves a gift for her, a toy he bought especially for Enid. Once he's gone, Enid admits she no longer feels the same way about him, and that she has changed. Wednesday insists she needs to end things with him directly. Suddenly, a crossbow bolt shoots out of their closet and slams into the wall, right next to a photo of Wednesday with Headmaster Dort. On the picture, a message reads, "Welcome back, Wednesday. I'm still watching you." Wednesday grabs the photo and tries to use her psychic abilities to identify the stalker, but nothing works. Enid notices black tears running down her friend's face. Meanwhile, Morticia and Gomez settle Pugsley into Caliban Hall, the old dorm where Gomez himself once lived. Pugsley meets his new roommate Eugene, and jokingly asks what it feels like to be attacked by a Hyde. Eugene admits he still wakes up from nightmares about it, which makes Pugsley smile with satisfaction. Gomez reminds the boys how important friendship is, then leaves with Morticia. Eugene shows Pugsley his insect collection, but when Pugsley suggests exploring the dorm, Eugene makes it clear he only agreed to share a room because Wednesday once saved his life. Just then, Ajax walks in and announces that he is now the freshman advisor. He asks if they have any questions, and when they don't, he leaves. Later, Wednesday joins her family in a meeting with Nevermore's new headmaster, Dort, who offers Morticia a position at the school. He asks her to take charge of the charity committee. Dort explains to Wednesday that Xavier's father, Vincent Thrope, once held this role, but stepped down after his son was falsely accused of being a Hyde. Offended, Vincent cut all ties with the school. It is also revealed that Xavier has now transferred to another academy in Switzerland. Dort once again urges Morticia to consider the position, and then takes the family to Rothwood Cottage, the very house where Marilyn Thornhill once lived. As we know from season 1, Thornhill turned out to be the main villain, and thanks to Wednesday, she is now behind bars. Dort adds that the cottage could serve as Morticia's residence if she agrees to become head of the charity committee. After he leaves, Wednesday asks her mother why she is so interested in working at Nevermore. Morticia explains that she wants to be her daughter's spiritual guide. Wednesday rejects the idea, saying that Morticia is like a dove who sees hopeful visions, while she herself is a raven, doomed to see only dark ones. Morticia responds that she knows ravens well, since her sister Oilia was one of them. She admits that with each passing year, Wednesday reminds her more and more of Oilia. Wednesday insists that she will be fine and urges her mother to focus on Pugsley instead. Once Wednesday leaves, Morticia quietly tells Gomez that she is certain her daughter is hiding something, and she vows not to let history repeat itself. In the next scene, Wednesday is walking through the forest with Thing. After a while, she notices police officers gathered around the body of Carl Bradbury, whose eyes have been pecked out by crows. At the scene, she meets the new sheriff, Richie Santiago, who once served as deputy to Sheriff Galpin. During their conversation, Wednesday spots a hooded figure watching her from a distance. When he realizes he has been seen, the stranger runs. Wednesday chases him down, knocks him off his feet, and discovers that it is Tyler's father, the former sheriff Donovan Galpin. Galpin explains that he and Bradbury had been working on a secret case. According to him, Bradbury uncovered something that could put outcasts in danger. Galpin insists that he only cares about protecting them because his son Tyler is one of them. He claims that Thornhill manipulated Tyler into becoming a monster, but deep down, he is a good person. Wednesday replies that Tyler has always been a monster. Donovan asks for her help, but Wednesday refuses and walks away. Before she leaves, Galpin warns her that the crows are always watching. That evening at Nevermore, Headmaster Dort summons Bianca to his office. He asks her to serve as the student representative at an upcoming fundraising event. Bianca declines, but Dort reminds her that she attends the academy on a scholarship. If the event fails, some students, including her, could lose their support. He also urges Bianca to use her siren abilities to persuade donors to contribute to the school. Dort gives her until the next day to make her decision. Meanwhile, Ajax tells the first years from Caliban Hall a legend about a boy with a weak heart who built himself a mechanical one. He explains that long ago, there was a boy confined to his bed because of heart problems. He spent his free time sketching fantastic machines he dreamed of creating. When doctors warned that he only had a few months left, the boy decided to design a mechanical heart to extend his life. The operation was a success, but the new heart changed him forever. He grew cold and ambitious. When the boy later enrolled at Nevermore, Teachers hailed him as the greatest genius in the school's history, but over time, his inventions became increasingly dangerous. In the end, one of them led to his downfall. According to legend, he was buried beneath Skull Tree, and to this day, you can still hear the ticking of his mechanical heart nearby. Pugsley listens to Ajax's story with a smile. At the same time, Enid spots Thing on the school balcony and wonders why he is there. Thing explains that Wednesday had scolded him. Wanting to cheer up their gloomy friend, Enid and her classmates set up a tiny room just for him. Back in his own room, Pugsley finds the location of Skull Tree on a map and uses his powers to bring a dead spider back to life. Meanwhile, the new music teacher, Miss Isadora Capri, walks into the classroom where Wednesday is playing the cello. Wednesday immediately recognizes her, since Capri released her first classical album at the age of 10. The teacher offers a few tips to improve her performance, but Wednesday refuses any lessons, saying she plays only for her own enjoyment. The next day, students from the Da Vinci group, who possess telekinetic abilities, use their powers to build a massive bonfire in the shape of an eagle, honoring the school's founders. Headmaster Dort and Morticia arrive for the event. Dort once again asks if she will agree to lead the charity committee. Morticia replies that she is still considering it, explaining that she wants to help Nevermore, but cannot manage it alone. Dort then suggests finding her a student assistant and introduces Bianca Barclay. He invites Morticia to watch the bonfire that evening and make her final decision. That evening, Wednesday receives a letter and a painting from Xavier. In the letter, he says he tried to reach her through the phone he gave her last season, but she never answered. It turns out Wednesday drowned the phone in a pot of boiling water. The painting shows a one-eyed raven perched on a gravestone, and Xavier is convinced it has something to do with her. Soon after, Wednesday notices that someone has tampered with her typewriter. Her manuscript is gone, replaced with a riddle and a photo of herself with the eyes cut out. From the riddle, she realizes that whoever took her novel plans to burn it that night during the school's founders' ceremony. Determined to save 2 years of work, she races to the event. Meanwhile, Pugsley tells the first years that he plans to sneak off to Skull Tree once the ceremony begins, and invites them to join, but no one agrees. Ajax approaches Enid, asking why she has been avoiding him, but she dodges the question. At that moment, Bruno, Enid's new boyfriend, shows up and asks her to watch the ceremony with him, but Enid says she needs to help Wednesday instead. The ceremony begins. Miss Capri and the Sirens perform the Nevermore anthem, and Headmaster Dort steps forward to make a dramatic announcement. He is shutting down Nightshade and every other secret society. The news clearly does not sit well with Bianca. As the event continues, Enid urges Wednesday to get out of the massive wooden structure before it's lit, but Wednesday refuses to leave without her manuscript. Dort ignites the bonfire with his powers, and the Da Vinci students use telekinesis to raise the giant eagle-shaped sculpture into the air. Enid panics, warning the headmaster that Wednesday is trapped inside, but Wednesday manages to escape on her own, clutching her manuscript. Dort welcomes her as an honored student, praising her for saving the school from Crackstone, and even unveils a portrait painted in her honor. Wednesday delivers a fiery speech that first earns cheers from the students, but then she cuts them down by calling them fools. She insists she is no hero and warns them not to put her on a pedestal, because if they do, she will burn it down. With that, Wednesday drops the microphone, grabs a torch, and sets the portrait ablaze, leaving everyone stunned. At the same time, Pugsley reaches Skull Tree. There, he accidentally triggers his powers and ends up awakening the boy with the mechanical heart. When Wednesday returns to school, Enid grabs her by the shoulders, and a new vision overwhelms her. She sees herself in a graveyard, standing before a tombstone marked with the name Enid Sinclair. Suddenly, in the vision, Enid grabs her by the throat and blames her for what happened. In reality, Enid watches in shock as Wednesday collapses to the ground, crying black tears. Later, Wednesday wakes up in Rothwood Cottage, in her mother Morticia's room. Morticia explains that the black tears are a sign of mental exhaustion brought on by overusing her powers. She urges Wednesday to give up Goody's spellbook. Morticia insists that she only wants to help, but Wednesday snaps back that she preferred it when her family kept their distance. After she leaves, Morticia scolds Thing for failing to protect her daughter. On the way back to Nevermore, Wednesday asks Lurch to make a stop. She visits the abandoned, ransacked home of former Sheriff Donovan Galpin and discovers his lifeless body, his eyes missing, just like Carl Bradbury. Suddenly, A swarm of ravens bursts from his mouth and flies out the window, leaving behind only one, a one-eyed bird. When it takes off, Wednesday tries to trigger a vision by touching the body, but nothing happens. Her powers have stopped working. Before she can investigate further, the police arrive, and Sheriff Santiago arrests her. At the station, Santiago demands to know why Wednesday was in Galpin's house. Wednesday insists that Galpin himself invited her, then turns the question back on the sheriff. Santiago explains that Carl Bradbury, the man whose eyes had been taken, called Galpin right before his end, but he never answered. It's likely Bradbury left a voicemail. Santiago admits she's searching for Galpin's phone to hear the message, but hasn't found it yet. Wednesday says Galpin wanted to talk to her and suggests his son Tyler could be involved, since he despised his father. But Santiago pushes back, reminding her that Tyler is currently under guard at the Willow Hill Psychiatric Hospital. Suddenly, Gomez appears. He declares that he's now his daughter's attorney, demands that Santiago get a warrant before questioning her again, and leads Wednesday out of the station. In the car, Gomez asks why she was at Galpin's house. Wednesday explains that Galpin had been working on a case and asked for her help. She then asks about the fate of her Aunt Oilia, but Gomez tells her that it's a question better directed to Morticia. Meanwhile, Eugene spots Pugsley coming out of the shed near the beehives. Inside, Eugene is shocked to find a chained-up zombie. Pugsley insists on keeping it locked away forever, saying it can't hurt anyone since it doesn't even have a brain. To prove his point, he shows Eugene a mechanical heart inside the creature, confirming that the old legend about the boy with the mechanical heart was actually true. They try feeding it honey, but the zombie spits it right back at them. Pugsley decides to name him Slurp. Wednesday confides in Thing that her last vision showed Enid's gravestone, and she believes it may be connected to the one-eyed raven. She warns Thing not to mention this to Enid. When Wednesday enters her room, she's horrified to see Enid lying on the balcony. She rushes over, only for Enid to suddenly burst out laughing. It was just a prank. Enid says it's payback for the fake eye Wednesday once left on her pillow, but Wednesday has no idea what she's talking about. When she inspects it, she realizes the eye is real and actually belonged to Galpin. At that moment, Enid receives a photo of Wednesday, along with a chilling message from the Stalker, warning that he won't be ignored. Calling the number redirects straight to Galpin's voicemail. Wednesday then tells Enid that the former sheriff is gone. Enid is shaken, but quickly changes the subject and shares that today is her very first driving lesson. Wednesday once again tries to trigger a vision using the eyeball, but her powers refuse to work. She instructs Thing to search Goody's spellbook for a way to restore her abilities. Outside the school, students are celebrating Prank Day. Ajax looks on sadly, jealous as Enid laughs with her new boyfriend Bruno. That's when Pugsley and Eugene show up with a jar of blood-sucking fleas and unleash them on Bruno. As Bruno squirms on the ground, the boys can't stop laughing. Ajax thanks them for the help, then casually removes his hat and turns both of them into stone as part of the holiday fun. At Cottage Rothwood, Bianca visits Morticia and shows her a list of potential donors who might help the school financially. She explains that Principal Dort is hoping Morticia will reach out to her wealthy but estranged mother for a major contribution. Morticia refuses, pointing out that the last person who asked her mother for a donation didn't exactly meet a pleasant fate. Meanwhile, Principal Dort and Dr. Orloff are discussing Prank Day. Orloff admits he can't stand the holiday, reminding her that last year one of the students dumped eels into his aquarium. Wednesday approaches them and asks if they know of any students or teachers capable of controlling ravens. Orloff replies that in the past 10 years, no one has ever shown such an ability. At the same time, Eugene and Pugsley check in on Slurp at the bee shed. Pugsley offers him a sandwich, which Slurp snatches and devours. But once the boys leave, Slurp begins breaking free from his chains. Still searching for answers, Wednesday tells Thing that she wants to visit Tyler at Willow Hill Psychiatric Hospital. To get there, she swipes a driving consent form from Enid's paperwork. When Enid returns to the dorm and starts looking for it, Thing pretends he hasn't seen anything. Morticia then enters the room, and once Enid leaves, she orders Thing to hand over Goody's spellbook. At the school gates, Wednesday disguises herself as Enid, hijacks the car along with the instructor, and heads for Willow Hill to confront Tyler. At the hospital, the guard refuses to let her in, assuming she's just another obsessed fan of the hide. Wednesday flashes a stack of documents and firmly declares that she is Wednesday Addams. The guard reluctantly lets her through, but the secretary explains that only Dr. Fairburn, the head psychiatrist, can approve a visit with Tyler. Dr. Fairburn soon arrives, saying she has been expecting Wednesday. She explains that Tyler often talks about her. When Wednesday asks about Marilyn Thornhill, Fairburn reveals that she has been transferred to another facility to weaken her influence over Tyler. The doctor believes the connection between the hide and its so-called master grows weaker when they're apart, and she hopes Wednesday's presence will guide Tyler toward recovery. Inside Tyler's solitary cell, he is bound in chains and refuses to cooperate, even after hearing about his father Galpin. Instead, he mocks Wednesday, claiming she came because she can't stop thinking about him, and that she secretly loves the monster within him because she's just like him. He even threatens to harm Enid once he escapes, but Wednesday doesn't flinch. She fires back that Thornhill only chose him as her puppet because she saw him as pathetic, someone easy to control, and not even capable of fixing a coffee machine. When Tyler tries to transform into the hide, the guards use a shock collar to stop him. At that very moment, Eugene discovers that Pugsley's pet zombie, Slurp, has broken free of his chains and escaped. In the principal's office, Dort explains to Bianca how important it is to secure a donation from Morticia's mother, Hester Frump, believing that her support will inspire others to contribute as well. He orders Bianca to use her siren song on Morticia to convince her to approach Hester for the money. Bianca tries turning her power on Dort instead, only to discover that he wears an amulet made of Corinthian coral, which makes him immune to siren influence. Dort threatens to take away her scholarship if she refuses, leaving Bianca with no choice. Meanwhile, Enid brings Bruno to her dorm room and finds a gift addressed to Thing. When she opens his tiny house, she's surprised to catch him drinking, though no one can figure out how that's even possible. Inside the package is a photo of Thing, along with a note from Uncle Fester, wishing him a happy birthday. Realizing the Addams family forgot his special day, Enid suggests celebrating with her wolf pack. Suddenly, Enid hears something is wrong with Bruno. She rushes to help, but Thing gets locked inside his little house while the pair is abducted. Later that night, Wednesday discovers Thing trapped, and he tells her that Enid and Bruno have been taken. Just then, Enid's phone rings. A voice warns Wednesday that she has 30 minutes to save her friend. A note slides under the door with the words, "Play dead." When Wednesday opens the door, the messenger is already gone. Enid and Bruno wake up to find themselves chained together in an abandoned clock tower. At first, Enid assumes it's another prank, but when she notices hundreds of knives hanging above them, she realizes this is far from a joke. While searching for Enid, Wednesday runs into Miss Capri, who invites her to join the orchestra for a fundraising concert. Wednesday initially refuses, remembering Capri's earlier criticism, but Capri insists she only wanted to help her improve her skills. Later, Wednesday figures out that the letters are actually musical notes and plays them on the piano, opening a secret passage. Inside, she spots a masked figure leaving behind a note that reads, "Time is ticking." Meanwhile, Enid apologizes to Bruno for dragging him into this mess, but he reassures her that it isn't her fault. They try to escape, end up falling, and in the moment, Enid kisses Bruno. Wednesday eventually tracks them down. Thing attempts to free them but accidentally triggers the trap, causing the blade mechanism to start lowering toward them. Wednesday notices a typewriter with a riddle. "What do you not see? Type the answer to free your friends." Looking around, she realizes one book is missing from the shelf, The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. She types the title, and Enid and Bruno are saved. That's when another student appears, Agnes DeMille, who has the power to turn invisible. She congratulates Wednesday on prank day, revealing that the whole ordeal was just a game to get her attention, since she's a huge fan. Wednesday presses her, asking why she left Galpin's eye on Enid's pillow. Agnes insists she had nothing to do with Galpin and returns Wednesday the sheriff's phone, which she admits she stole from his house. Later, Wednesday apologizes to Thing for forgetting his birthday and gives him an antique finger press as a gift. Thing accepts her apology, but admits he's worried about Enid. Wednesday reassures him that she can protect her friend. She then asks if he found anything in Goody's book about restoring her powers, but Thing explains that Morticia took it. Afterward, Wednesday steps out onto the balcony and once again notices the one-eyed raven that has been watching her all this time. The moment she spots it, the raven flies away. Meanwhile, at Cottage Rothwood, Bianca visits Morticia again and quietly uses her siren song to persuade her to convince Hester Frump to attend the fundraising gala and make a generous donation to Nevermore. Before leaving, Bianca makes sure Morticia has no memory of her visit. At the same time, Slurp is wandering through the forest. A driving instructor leaves a voicemail for Principal Dort, saying he will no longer teach students from Nevermore. Distracted, he accidentally hits Slurp with his car. Thinking he's struck an injured animal, the instructor gets out to check, but the body is gone. Suddenly, Slurp appears from behind, pounces, and devours him. The next day, Morticia and Gomez treat Thing to a luxurious pedicure to make up for forgetting his birthday. Morticia confides to Gomez that she's been under stress and suddenly felt the urge to call her mother, hoping she would make a donation to the school. To cheer her up, Gomez puts on music, and they dance together. At that very moment, Wednesday sneaks into her parents' room, searching for Goody's spellbook. But Morticia walks in and tells her she isn't foolish enough to leave such a book lying around. Wednesday demands it back and shares her vision of Enid's looming danger. She also claims that former Sheriff Galpin was taken down by the Ravens, just like his old partner. Determined to stop the culprit before they reach Enid, Wednesday begs Morticia to help, but her mother refuses. Morticia insists that visions are unreliable and that the book is far too dangerous. Once again, she compares Wednesday to Oilia and denies her access to Goody Addams' writings. Back at the dorm, Wednesday tries to figure out how to unlock Galpin's phone. Enid invites her on a trip to Camp Jericho, but Wednesday turns her down. After Enid leaves, Wednesday once again asks Thing not to tell her friend about the visions she saw. Suddenly, Agnes shows up. She's a big fan of Wednesday and offers to help investigate what happened to Galpin and Bradbury, but Wednesday refuses. The scene then shifts to Galpin's funeral, attended only by Sheriff Santiago and Dr. Fairburn. The sheriff warns Wednesday to stop digging into the case and tells her to stay away from Tyler. Wednesday ignores the warning. After he leaves, she questions Dr. Fairburn about whether Galpin ever visited his son. The doctor explains that Galpin came to see Tyler only once at Willow Hill, and that visit triggered a violent transformation. Tyler turned into the Hide and couldn't return to his human form for a long time. It took 5 minutes of electroshock to bring him back. The doctor also confirms that no one at Willow Hill has the ability to control birds. Wednesday walks away, unaware that the one-eyed raven is watching her from a distance. Meanwhile, it turns out Slurp has returned on his own to Eugene's shed. Pugsley and Eugene watch as his brain regenerates at an incredible speed whenever he eats. While they're talking, Slurp tries to lunge at Eugene, but Pugsley restrains him with his electrokinetic powers. Eugene thinks Slurp is far too dangerous and wants to report him to the teachers, but Pugsley insists everything is under control. At the same time, Bianca arrives at the Apple Hollow Hotel. Using her siren abilities, she gets the key to room 302, where her mother Gabrielle is staying. Inside, Gabrielle admits she's been following the news about the cult Morning Song and reveals that her ex-husband Gideon is wanted by federal authorities. She blames herself for marrying Gideon, who only used her to recruit followers and steal their money. Bianca confesses that she used her powers to push the FBI toward tracking Gideon down. She promises her mother she'll find him, clear her name, and finally give her the chance to live freely. At Nevermore, Wednesday turns to Agnes for help unlocking Galpin's phone. With the assistance of her friend Josephine, who can change her appearance, they manage to get past the Face ID. Agnes also hands Wednesday a box of items she managed to steal from the former sheriff's house before the police arrived. Once Agnes and Josephine are gone, Wednesday listens to Galpin's voicemails, which were sent to him by Bradbury. Inside the box, she also finds a photo of a cabin with the address Pinerest written on the back. Thing locates Pinerest on the map, and it turns out to be close to Camp Jericho, the very place Enid had planned to visit. Wednesday decides to join the trip. On the day of departure, Principal Dort encourages the students to have fun. Enid is thrilled to see Wednesday coming along. Agnes proudly announces that she's now Wednesday's new assistant, leaving Enid disappointed. Wednesday quickly sends Agnes to grab them a window seat. Dort is surprised by Wednesday's choice to go on the trip. While Enid is buying snacks, Ajax offers to help carry her bags to the bus, but her new boyfriend, Bruno, steps in and insists he'll handle it himself, with the help of Thing. When they arrive at Camp Jericho, Wednesday notices Pugsley struggling to carry a coffin. Suspicious, she asks what's inside, and he claims it's just firewood. Moments later, the rest of the Addams family arrives. Gomez explains that they volunteered to chaperone so they could spend more time together as a family. Hoping to ease the tension between Morticia and Wednesday, Gomez tries to start a conversation, but Wednesday walks away without a word. Meanwhile, Pugsley sets up the tent and places fireworks around it. When Eugene asks about them, Pugsley explains they're warning signals in case Slurp manages to escape again. Horrified, Eugene realizes Pugsley has actually brought Slurp to camp. Just then, Gomez approaches, and the boys rush out of the tent to keep him from finding out. Later, Gomez suggests to Morticia that they return Goody's spellbook to their daughter, but Morticia refuses. She insists it's safer for Wednesday to resent her than for her to risk losing her daughter forever. Meanwhile, Principal Dort welcomes the students to Camp Jericho and announces that for the next 2 days, the camp will belong to the outcasts. But in the middle of his speech, a group of normies from a military academy arrives, led by Ron Kruger. They claim they reserved the camp 6 months earlier. Kruger presents a contract proving their reservation, but Dort counters with his own contract, signed by the camp's owner, Old Jack. It turns out Jack is retired, and now his sons run the business. Because of Jack's mistakes, the camp ended up double booked. Neither side is willing to give it up. Wednesday suggests settling the dispute through a competition. The winners stay, the losers leave. Both sides agree. Dort explains the rules of the game called Outcasts versus Cadets. Each team must have 10 players split into attackers and defenders. The defenders guard their team's totem, while the attackers try to capture the opponents. If an attacker succeeds, they must fire a signal flare and bring the totem to the watchtower. The first to do so wins. There are no other rules. The contest begins. The cadets use arrows to knock off Ajax's hat, and in the confusion, he accidentally freezes one of his own teammates. The cadets seize the totem. At the same time, the outcasts try to snatch the cadets' totem, but the cadets, equipped with military gear, defend it with tear gas. Wednesday signals to Thing and Eugene. Eugene unleashes a swarm of bees on the opponents, while Wednesday, unaffected by the gas, charges through and easily takes the cadet's totem. Bianca fires a flare. Both teams, holding their totems, race toward the tower. The cadets pull ahead, but at the last moment, Wednesday shoots a crossbow from the cliff, anchors a rope, slides down, knocks a cadet out of the way, and secures the totem, stealing the victory. Later, Kruger scolds his cadets for the loss and pushes them to try and take the camp from the outcasts during the night. That evening, the outcasts gather around the campfire. While Morticia and the sirens sing, Wednesday and Thing slip away to investigate the Pinerest cabin. Inside, behind a mirror, Wednesday discovers newspaper clippings about outcast disappearances in Willow Hill over the past 15 years. Every case is tied to the name Lois. She tries to trigger her psychic visions, but nothing happens. Wednesday realizes that Goody Addams' book is her only chance to restore her abilities and protect Enid. Watching her from outside the window is a one-eyed raven. Back at the fire, Bianca praises Morticia's beautiful voice. Dort asks whether Morticia's mother, Hester Frump, has agreed to join the gratitude committee. Morticia explains that she tried calling, but Hester never answered. Nearby, Enid finally works up the courage to speak with Ajax. She admits her feelings have changed over the summer. She tells him she's grown up and that they can no longer be together, leaving Ajax heartbroken. Meanwhile, the cadets in camouflage prepare to strike against the outcasts. Wednesday goes to her mother and demands Goody's book. She challenges Morticia to a blind duel, an old Addams family tradition where the first to shatter the opponent's glass heart wins. If Wednesday succeeds, Morticia must return the book. If she loses, the book will be destroyed. Morticia accepts. Thing rings the bell, and the duel begins. Both move with exceptional skill. At the same time, Kruger's cadets sneak into the outcasts' tents, planning to tie them up in their sleep. But when Ron Kruger himself enters the tent where Eugene and Pugsley are resting, a trap is triggered. Kruger stumbles upon Slurp, who lunges and devours him, sending the rest of the cadets fleeing in terror. Eugene and Pugsley find what's left of Kruger and realize Slurp has escaped once again. Agnes, who had been secretly tracking Pugsley in an invisible state at Wednesday's request, offers her help. The three set off to hunt down Slurp. Slurp finds an axe and storms into the cabin where Gomez is taking a shower, completely unaware of the danger. Pugsley arrives just in time and knocks the creature out with his electrokinesis. The noise draws the attention of the entire camp, but suddenly Slurp revives, grabs the axe, and bolts into the forest. Back at the duel, Morticia manages to win against her daughter, but before she can catch her breath, Slurp creeps up behind her. Wednesday reacts instantly, hurling her sword and pinning the creature to a tree, saving her mother's life. Later, the police arrive to take Kruger's body to the morgue and Slurp back to Willow Hill. The cadets give their fallen leader one final salute before he is carried away. Without her visions, Wednesday continues her investigation, now haunted by two questions. Who is Lois, and how can she save Enid in the future? Once again, she notices the one-eyed raven, this time landing on the shoulder of a hooded figure, who vanishes a moment later. Meanwhile, over at Willow Hill, Dr. Fairburn orders constant surveillance on a new patient. When the camera window opens, it reveals none other than Marilyn Thornhill, the former master master of the hide. She is escorted into Fairburn's office. The doctor wants to figure out how to break the connection between the hide and its master, and more importantly, what needs to be done to help Tyler recover. Fairburn admits she once believed separating Tyler from Marilyn would weaken her emotional hold over him, but that theory turned out to be wrong. Marilyn lays down her own conditions. She will only cooperate if she is transferred permanently to Willow Hill as a patient rather than a prisoner. Fairburn refuses and orders her to be locked in solitary confinement and sent back to prison. As she is taken away, Marilyn begs for just one meeting with Tyler. When she is finally brought to him, Tyler silently approaches, then transforms into the hide and grabs her through the bars. Marilyn promises that she will get him out of there, and with that, Tyler releases her. Elsewhere, in a quiet cemetery, Wednesday discovers the urn of Patricia Redcar, one of the outcasts whose newspaper clippings she found in the Pinerest cabin. At that moment, Wednesday's grandmother, Hester Frump, arrives. Wednesday shows her the collection of articles she gathered and explains that every patient mentioned in them is buried here. She also confides that she lost her psychic abilities and shares the vision she once had about her roommate's fate. Convinced all of these events are connected, Hester suggests her granddaughter smell Patricia's ashes. Wednesday does, and instead of a human scent, she notices an animal one. Just then, the one-eyed raven swoops in, snatches the stack of obituaries, and carries them off to a dark figure on a motorcycle before they both vanish in the distance. Turning to her grandmother, Wednesday asks her to purchase the cemetery to uncover who authorized the false cremations. Back at Nevermore, she quickly realizes that the one-eyed raven has been shadowing her every move. Later in the dorm, Enid leaves a scrunchie on the door handle, her way of saying, "Do not disturb." Wednesday ignores it and walks in, finding her friend with Bruno. But hiding in the room the entire time is Agnes. Once Enid and Bruno leave, Agnes steps forward and hands Wednesday a letter from a publisher. Wednesday opens it only to find a rejection of her novel, along with a recommendation that she seek psychological help. The next day, Wednesday heads to the clock tower to meet with Uncle Fester. She tells him she has a mission, and for it to succeed, he needs to sneak into Willow Hill. Fester recalls the last time he was there. It was at Morticia's request to check on Oilia. That's when he discovered that Oilia had escaped from the psychiatric hospital. Their conversation is interrupted by Agnes, who hands Wednesday a map of Willow Hill. Wednesday makes it clear to Fester that his task is to break into the hospital and track down someone named Lois, who could be either a patient or a staff member. Later, Fester checks into the Apple Hollow Hotel, carrying money stained with paint. After settling into his room, he immediately creates chaos. The hotel staff calls the police, and Sheriff Santiago arrives with backup. She orders her deputies to search the other rooms while she goes into Fester's. In one of the rooms, a deputy finds Bianca's mother and detains her. Meanwhile, Sheriff Santiago arrests Fester. At the station, she tries to question him, but his unpredictable behavior makes it impossible to get straight answers. Frustrated, she orders Dr. Fairburn to have Fester transferred to Willow Hill. Santiago also discovers that Bianca's mother had been secretly living at the hotel. Back at Nevermore, Eugene, Pugsley, and Ajax are serving punishment for hiding a zombie in the camp. Ajax insists he was only supervising them and had no idea, but Principal Dort refuses to listen. Bianca is assigned to the same punishment. Their job is to prepare invitations for the upcoming gala. Bianca then receives a message about her mother's arrest. She asks Dort for permission to leave, but Dort refuses and tells Dr. Orloff to keep an eye on her. Ajax notices how anxious Bianca looks. She admits that her mother is in trouble, but explains she cannot leave because her siren voice won't work on Dr. Orloff, whose head is inside a glass tube. Ajax decides to help her. He removes his hat and turns Orloff to stone. Eugene and Pugsley want to join them, but Bianca uses her siren voice to keep them behind, making sure they continue preparing the invitations. At the police station, Bianca arrives with Ajax and claims the detained woman is her mother. She skillfully uses her siren voice to make the officers close the case and erase all the records connected to her. At Cottage Rothwood, Wednesday visits Morticia, who assumes her daughter has come to ask for Goody's book. Instead, Wednesday wants to know why her aunt Oilia was sent to Willow Hill. After a moment of hesitation, Morticia explains that back in her second year at Nevermore, Oilia often cried black tears, just like Wednesday, as a result of pushing her powers too far. One day, she was found screaming in the Nevermore courtyard, her face streaked with black tears. After that, she was taken to the Willow Hill Psychiatric Hospital. Morticia tried desperately to defend her sister, insisting that her behavior was tied to her abilities rather than a disorder of the mind. But no one believed her. She blames her own mother, Hester Frump, for everything that happened to Oilia. To Morticia's surprise, Hester suddenly appears and hands Wednesday a deed for a cemetery she has just purchased in her granddaughter's name. She quietly tells Wednesday that the person who forged the cremation papers and swapped out the bodies of the outcasts with animal remains was a man named August Stonehurst. Wednesday leaves to search for more information. After she is gone, Morticia accuses Hester of trying to turn Wednesday against her. The two argue about Oilia. Hester then offers to donate money to Nevermore in exchange for giving Wednesday Goody's book. Morticia refuses. She grabs the Goody Addams book and throws it into the fire, declaring that family is not something to be bargained with. At Willow Hill, Fester talks with Dr. Fairburn and admits that he has spent most of his life in psychiatric hospitals. Since Fester carries dozens of passports, Fairburn asks him for his real name. Fester replies that he is simply Fester. A brain scan reveals actual nails and scissors lodged in his skull, which convinces Fairburn to officially admit him as a patient. Once inside the hospital, Fester begins asking the other patients about Lois, but no one seems to know her. In the process, he even strikes up an instant connection with the cook. Meanwhile, back at Nevermore, a mysterious hooded figure sneaks into the school. Agnes informs Wednesday that August Stonehurst is a former teacher at Nevermore and is now a patient at Willow Hill. Wednesday sends Thing to deliver this information to Fester. Enid notices that Wednesday has been drifting away from her and complains that Agnes has replaced her. Before Wednesday can respond, a flock of crows suddenly attacks, forcing the two to hide under a table. Principal Dort launches fireballs to drive the birds away. One crow grabs Thing, but Dort strikes it mid-air, forcing the bird to release him, and Enid manages to catch him. Wednesday spots the hooded figure in a window and gives chase through a secret passage, but all she finds is an abandoned dark cloak. In the music room, she encounters Dr. Fairburn and immediately feels suspicious. Fairburn claims she is there to visit Miss Capri to discuss upcoming music therapy sessions at Willow Hill. Capri then enters the room, breathing heavily, and Wednesday notices her glancing toward a birdcage. When Dr. Fairburn leaves Nevermore, Thing secretly slips into her car under Wednesday's command. Morticia approaches Wednesday and demands an explanation for why Fester is in Willow Hill. Morticia reminds her that catching Fester is impossible unless he allows it. Wednesday admits that he is helping her with the investigation. Morticia warns that pursuing it further will only make things worse, but Wednesday refuses to back down. At Willow Hill, Thing finds Fester and tells him to track down August Stonehurst, who holds the key to uncovering the mystery of Lois. Fester asks a guard about August, and the man leads him straight to Stonehurst, who is lying in a coma. Since August cannot speak, his parrot does the talking for him. After a quick jolt of electricity from Fester, the bird blurts out a number connected to Lois. That night, Fester wheels August back to his room. On the way, Marilyn spots him immediately and recognizes who he is. As they pass a door marked Maintenance Room, August suddenly points to it and says, Lois. Once August is back in bed, Fester returns to that same door. Meanwhile, in Dr. Fairburn's office, Marilyn reports that she saw Fester Addams inside the hospital, warning that this can only mean one thing. Wednesday must have sent him. Moments later, Fairburn and a group of guards catch Fester trying to break into the maintenance room and knock him out. When he wakes, he is told he has been moved to a special cell, where his only companion is a zombie. Thing watches from the shadows and quickly rushes back to Nevermore to report everything to Wednesday. At the same time, Wednesday questions Dr. Orloff about August Stonehurst's past as a science teacher. She learns that he used to be an ordinary man and, back then, even had a young daughter. Elsewhere, Bianca and Ajax manage to sneak her mother into Nevermore. They slip through the tunnels and barely avoid being spotted by Principal Dort. Later, Thing informs Wednesday of everything he witnessed. She sends him back to Willow Hill to keep an eye on Fester while she works on a rescue plan. Wednesday gathers her friends and explains that Miss Capri's upcoming music therapy lesson at the hospital might be their way in. Thing has already secured the help of the cook, who will lead them straight to Fester. Agnes is tasked with creating a distraction at the main gates, while Enid, tired of always being left out, insists on joining the mission. Wednesday agrees and assigns her as lookout, telling her to call Sheriff Santiago if things go wrong. In the next scene, Wednesday hides in Miss Capri's trunk as she drives to Willow Hill, where Agnes has already slipped into the security room. When a guard begins checking the car, Agnes detonates a small explosion in the security restroom, drawing his attention away and giving Wednesday the chance to sneak inside. Once inside, the cook leads Wednesday to a locked cell holding Fester. She frees him, and together they set out to find Lois. Meanwhile, Slurp breaks free from his chains, rampages through the hospital, and overpowers the guards holding Marilyn, giving her the chance to escape. As she runs past Wednesday, their eyes meet, but neither of them says a word. Meanwhile, the alarm interrupts Miss Capri's music session. Dr. Fairburn is alerted that a creature has broken loose and immediately begins the evacuation. Wednesday and Fester reach the maintenance room and unlock it using the code August had given him earlier. Behind a bookshelf, they discover a corridor marked with the word Lois. Wednesday realizes this is not a person's name, but the title of a secret project. Beneath the hospital lies a hidden laboratory where the outcasts whose obituaries Wednesday had been investigating are actually alive. Among them sits a pale, ordinary-looking woman held in the most secure cell. Suddenly, a stranger who controls crows steps forward and introduces herself as Judy, the daughter of August Stonehurst. She explains that the true purpose of Project LOIS is to extract unique abilities from outcasts and transfer them to ordinary people. Judy reveals that she continues her father's work and was his first successful experiment. She used to be just a regular person, but her father gave her the power to command birds. Without warning, Fester unleashes a powerful shockwave that knocks out the entire hospital's power grid. Enid, keeping watch outside, immediately calls Sheriff Santiago. With the electricity cut, every cell door in the hospital bursts open. Test subjects break free and turn on Judy, who desperately tries to fight them off. Wednesday pulls the pale woman out of her locked cell. Guards open fire on Slurp, but the bullets have no effect. Marilyn, meanwhile, unchains Tyler. Still consumed by anger over the past, Tyler seizes her and threatens to end her life. Marilyn pleads for mercy and insists that their true enemy is Wednesday Addams. She convinces him that this is who they should be targeting. Tyler agrees, but grants Marilyn only 5 seconds to run. As soon as she flees, he transforms into Hyde and chases her down. Powerless to resist, Marilyn cannot escape him, and her story comes to an end. Elsewhere, Fester bids farewell to the cook with a passionate kiss, thanking her for her help. Dr. Fairburn hides in her office with August Stonehurst, unaware that Slurp has managed to get inside. Slurp attacks, and after dealing with Fairburn, he greets August like an old acquaintance, before turning on him as well. In the hospital lobby, Tyler finds Wednesday. Their eyes lock for a tense moment before he shoves her through a window. She crashes to the floor just as the police arrive. Officers open fire on Tyler, but he lashes out at them and disappears into the woods. After Tyler's attack, Wednesday falls into a coma and is taken to the hospital. Her mind drifts into the other world, where she encounters the former headmistress of Nevermore, Larissa Weems. Wednesday is stunned to learn that Weems has become her new spiritual guide. She insists that this should be impossible, since only a close relative can take on that role. But Weems explains that in fact, they are very distant relatives, connected through the 13th generation. Wednesday refuses to accept it, but Weems reminds her that her previous guides sacrificed themselves to save her, leaving no one else but Weems to step in. She goes on to summarize Wednesday's recent actions, losing her psychic abilities, Enid's lie about her approaching end, and the release of Tyler Galpin from the psychiatric hospital, who also happens to be a Hyde. With sharp sarcasm, Weems remarks that Wednesday is digging her own grave. Feeling desperate, Wednesday begs for her psychic powers to return, but Weems explains that the loss was entirely her own doing, and no one else can be blamed. Before Wednesday can argue further, she suddenly wakes up from the coma. Meanwhile, Judy Stonehurst, now serving as acting director of Willow Hill, holds a press conference. She announces that 46 patients escaped during the chaos, and several lives were lost, including that of Dr. Fairburn, the hospital's director. Thanks to the police, 43 patients have been recovered and will soon be transferred to another facility, as Willow Hill is shutting down indefinitely. Sheriff Santiago informs the press that 3 dangerous escapees remain at large: Fester Addams, a zombie known only as John Doe, and Tyler Galpin. Then, out of nowhere, she receives word that Wednesday has woken from her coma. The sheriff immediately heads out to see her. Judy reassures Santiago that everything was just an accident, claiming Wednesday happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. According to Judy, she only snuck into the facility to check on her uncle Fester. The next scene shows a man working for Judy, burying a body. He gets a call from her and reports that he tracked down and silenced all the escapees from the secret Willow Hill lab, except for one, the patient listed as number 1938. Judy tells him the sheriff still knows nothing about the lab beneath Willow Hill and insists it has to stay that way. She orders him to find the missing patient. Later, Judy visits Wednesday in the hospital. Wednesday warns her that the sheriff is about to receive an anonymous tip about the lab. Judy coolly replies that there's nothing left down there but dusty boxes and old papers. When Wednesday presses her about patient 1938, Judy pretends to have no idea who that is. As Wednesday leaves her room, she finds a bouquet of withered flowers with a threatening note. To her shock, she then spots Tyler in the hospital, but when she moves closer, he vanishes. Meanwhile, Bianca hides her mother inside the school, promising she'll be safe as long as she stays there. Wednesday, on the other hand, grows increasingly frustrated with the constant presence of Weems, who no one else can see. She confides in Enid that Tyler is alive and now in Jericho. Wednesday orders her to gather things and head home, warning that Tyler intends to go after both of them. Enid refuses, insisting she isn't afraid since she already beat him once before. But Wednesday reminds her that the only reason she won was because Sheriff Galpin intervened. Wednesday insists on facing the hide alone, though Enid realizes he can't be defeated by a single person. Weems suggests Wednesday finally tell Enid the truth about her vision of the gravestone, but Wednesday decides to keep that to herself. Back at the school, the Day of the Dead celebration is in full swing. Wednesday urges Director Dort to call it off, warning that Tyler is still on the loose, but he refuses. Dort argues that Tyler could never handle all the outcasts on his own, and if things take a turn for the worse, Professor Capri has the knowledge needed to stop him. It turns out Capri knows quite a lot about hides. Later, one of Judy's men discovers the sewer where Tyler is hiding. At that moment, Tyler sees the spirit of his father, Donovan Galpin, and begins to lose his grip on reality. Judy's man eventually finds him, but Tyler takes him down. Sometime later, the zombie Slurp peeks into the sewer and finishes off what's left of the man. With every meal, the zombie looks more and more human. Knowing that Professor Capri has knowledge about Hyde, Wednesday decides to ask her for answers. Capri reveals that her ex-boyfriend was a Hyde and that he was shot after attacking her. Wednesday wants to know what could have driven him to try to harm Capri, mentioning that Tyler is already on his way, and she needs to learn everything she can about Hyde. Capri explains that her ex's master was also in love with him, and ordered him to attack Capri out of jealousy. But instead, he turned on his master, which drove him into madness and pushed him to go after Capri. Wednesday learns that Hydes cannot survive long without a master, as they quickly become uncontrollable. Realizing this, she decides to become Tyler's new master. Later, Wednesday goes through Marilyn Thornhill's research. Suddenly, Morticia walks into the room and finds her daughter studying an organic chemistry formula hidden among Thornhill's notes. She immediately suspects it has something to do with Tyler. Wednesday tells her mother that she needs to be prepared for his return in order to protect Enid. Morticia, doubtful, believes her daughter simply wants to save Tyler. Meanwhile, Enid, worried that Wednesday will not be able to face the Hyde on her own, comes up with the idea of bringing the Nightshade Club back together, the same group that saved the school in the first part. That night, Pugsley and Gomez search the forest for Slurp, but come up empty. After hours of searching, Gomez tells Pugsley that they have been looking too long and tries to convince him that Slurp has probably already moved on. In the end, they decide to head to the Day of the Dead celebration at Nevermore. At the same time, Slurp, watching Pugsley from a distance, decides to follow him. Meanwhile, the officers discover the body of the man who worked for Judy. After examining the scene, they conclude that Tyler has teamed up with the zombie. Sergeant Santiago, convinced that Tyler is heading toward Nevermore, orders security around the school to be reinforced. At the same time, patient 1938 hears a radio report saying Tyler might strike at Nevermore that very day. She decides to head there as well. Wednesday, still buried in Thornhill's notes, focuses on one goal: to take control of Tyler before he can carry out his mission against Enid. Suddenly, Agnes appears. She confesses to Wednesday that she used to visit her in the hospital every day, and when no one was around, she would braid her hair. Agnes also shares that the Nightshade Club has reunited and that they are meeting tonight to discuss something important. Later, Enid gathers the former members of Nightshade and warns them that Tyler is planning an attack on Nevermore. At that moment, Wednesday arrives and confirms the threat, adding that she already has a plan to make Tyler her own. She begins preparing Thornhill's potion, and Weems appears, hinting that Wednesday's feelings toward Tyler might be closer to love than hate. Meanwhile, Slurp shows up at the Day of the Dead celebration and starts attacking the normies who came to the event. News of the chaos at Nevermore quickly reaches the police, who rush to the scene. Pugsley finally finds Slurp, who now looks far more human than before. Slurp tells him that Pugsley gave him a second chance at life, and he does not want to waste it. He begs Pugsley to let him go, and showing compassion, Pugsley agrees. Gomez watches as Slurp walks away from the scene. At the same time, patient 1938 arrives at Morticia's. This is when we learn her real name, Francois, and that she is Tyler's mother. Francois reveals that she had been a prisoner at the Willow Hill Psychiatric Hospital until Wednesday set her free. She pleads with Morticia to help save her son and promises to escape with him far away from this town. After some time, Thing tells Wednesday that Tyler has already arrived. He is chasing Enid when he falls into a trap set by the Nightshade Club. Tyler transforms into the hide. In that moment, Wednesday quietly sneaks up behind him, hoping to use the chance to inject him and bring the hide under her control. But her plan fails, and Tyler turns on her. Amid the chaos, Francois suddenly appears, already transformed into a hide. She pulls Tyler away with her. Morticia arrives and reveals to Wednesday that patient 1938 is in fact Tyler's mother, and that she herself is a hide. Morticia explains that she made a deal with her. Francois promised to keep Tyler under control, and once that was done, they would leave Jericho forever. But Wednesday does not believe a word of it. Later, Gomez meets with Morticia and tells her that the zombie Pugsley is actually Isaac. Morticia, in turn, reveals to Gomez that Francois is still alive, even though both of them had long believed she was gone. At the same time, the zombie Slurp visits Judy Stonehurst. It becomes clear that behind his zombie appearance is none other than Nevermore's most brilliant scientist, Isaac, the brother of Francois, and an old friend of Gomez Addams. Meanwhile, Enid begins to transform into a wolf even without the full moon, and bolts into the forest. Capri immediately realizes that Enid is the alpha. In the next scene, we see a cheerful Wednesday, happily putting on makeup. She slips into bright shoes and colorful clothes, leaving all the Nevermore students stunned by her new behavior. Then the story jumps back 16 hours and 36 minutes earlier. Wednesday tells Sheriff Santiago and Headmaster Dort that she had warned them Tyler would show up at the school, and as we know, he did. She also explains that her plan failed because of a second creature. Wednesday reveals that this second hide is Francois Galpin, Tyler's mother. Everyone had believed she passed away 15 years ago, but Wednesday discovered that August Stonehurst staged her death so he could experiment on her and other outcasts in the basement of Willow Hill. On top of that, his daughter Judy knew everything and kept it hidden. Out of caution, Headmaster Dort decides to impose a curfew. Later, Wednesday meets with her spiritual guide, Larissa Weems. Weems congratulates her on freeing 2 hides from the psychiatric hospital, but reminds her that her vision has not changed. Enid will lose her life, and Wednesday will carry the blame. Weems advises her to leave Tyler and Francois to the authorities, and instead focus on mending her bond with Morticia, because the Addams family only finds strength through unity. After that, Professor Orloff tells Wednesday about Francois's brother, Isaac, who was a remarkable Da Vinci, in other words, a telekinetic. Orloff explains that Isaac built him a vital system that is still keeping him alive. He recalls that one day, Isaac's laboratory exploded. His body was never found, though rumors spread that he had been buried beneath Skulltree. Following her talk with Orloff, Wednesday goes to Pugsley and asks where his zombie is, since she now knows that the creature is actually Isaac. Pugsley admits that the zombie is no longer with him because he let him go, but he adds that the zombie dropped something on his way out. Wednesday looks at a photograph with the number 1938 written on it. In another scene, Tyler wakes up in an unfamiliar room and sees his mother, Francois. She assures him they are in a safe place once built by his father, Donovan Galpin. Tyler notices that he has been tied up, and Francois admits she restrained him so he would stay calm. She also tells him that from now on, she is in charge. Meanwhile, Professor Capri visits Enid, having witnessed her transformation into a wolf the night before, even though it wasn't a full moon. Capri explains that this can only mean one thing: Enid is an alpha. But Enid is far from happy with this news, since alphas are usually destined to live in solitude. We then see Wednesday training in target practice with her grandmother. During the session, Wednesday shows her a photo of Francois and says she wants to find her, but she can't because she has lost her psychic abilities. Her grandmother tells her about Rosalind Rothwood, a legendary raven teacher buried at Nevermore. She explains that if Wednesday recites the words carved on her grave, she can gain a temporary vision. Wednesday decides to go to the cemetery alone, despite Enid's pleas to let the idea go. At Rosalind's grave, Wednesday speaks the inscription and is drawn into a vision where the spirit of Rosalind appears. Rosalind challenges her to place her hand in the flame and endure it. If she succeeds, she will gain temporary visions. If she pulls away, she will break the raven's sight and face consequences. Wednesday places her hand on the fire and begins to see visions, but just then Enid interrupts, pulling her hand away. The next morning, Wednesday and Enid wake up in their Nevermore dorm rooms, only to realize they've swapped bodies. Wednesday, now in Enid's body, decides to return to Rosalind's grave. Enid, in Wednesday's body, goes to get a drink with coloring in it. Even though Wednesday had warned her about an allergy to dye, Enid assumed it was just a joke. But she quickly realizes she was wrong when her body breaks out in a rash. Luckily, she runs into Morticia, who to her relief has a magical cream to treat it. Noticing her daughter's unusual behavior, Morticia invites her to a family dinner that evening, warning that she must not miss it, unaware that she is actually speaking to Enid inside Wednesday's body. Meanwhile, Wednesday in Enid's body arrives at the cemetery, where Weems tells her there have been 2 other similar cases before, and both of them passed away within 24 hours. Elsewhere, Tyler and his mother sit down to eat when they are unexpectedly joined by Isaac, Francois's brother. They embrace, and Francois introduces him to her son. But suddenly she begins coughing and explains that it is caused by her transformation into a hide. Francois confesses that August Stonehurst stole Isaac's diary and used it to create the Isaac apparatus in Willow Hill, a machine designed to transfer powers from outcasts to normies. She adds that his own daughter, Judy, was the first test subject and continues his research to this day, still searching for Francois. But Isaac replies that he has already dealt with Judy. He tells his sister that if his device is indeed still hidden in Willow Hill, he can save her, but first he wants to return to Nevermore. At this time, Wednesday, still trapped in Enid's body, plays the cello in the music room. Professor Capri walks in and is stunned that Enid can suddenly play such a complex instrument. Capri then warns her that before the next full moon, she must be locked in the wolf cage. If she transforms that night, she may never return to being human again. While in the music room, Wednesday notices a painting and realizes that Rosalind Rothwood once lived in the very same cabin where her mother, Morticia, now resides. Determined, she decides to go there. Before leaving, Capri reminds her that she must return by sunset so they can lock her in the cage. Inside the cabin, Wednesday discovers a secret passage. There she encounters the skeletal remains of Rosalind, who tells her that the curse will only be broken if the 2 girls reveal the truth to each other. Just then, Morticia finds her and drives her away. Meanwhile, Enid, still inside Wednesday's body, starts reading one of Wednesday's novels. She learns that the character based on her is described as rainbow obsessed, social media addicted, weak, and tasteless. Furious, Enid puts on colorful clothes and begins dancing all through Nevermore, while the real Wednesday watches in dismay. Later, Wednesday in Enid's body approaches Bruno and overhears him speaking in Filipino. Since she understands the language, she realizes that he has another girlfriend back home. Without hesitation, she ends their relationship. What she doesn't know is that Agnes overheard everything. Soon after, Agnes enters Wednesday's room and finds Enid still inside Wednesday's body. She confesses that she's worried about Wednesday's bizarre behavior, like dancing around in bright clothes and suddenly owning a phone. Enid, pretending to be Wednesday, brushes it off, but Agnes insists something is wrong. She believes Wednesday has become obsessed with saving Enid from danger and has completely lost her balance. Still, Agnes adds that she doesn't blame her, because in her opinion, Enid is foolish. Angry, Enid in Wednesday's body yells at Agnes, wishing that she would remain invisible forever. Heartbroken, Agnes attends a support session where she admits she thought she had finally found a real friend, but it all turned out differently. At this time, Enid, still inside Wednesday's body, sits down for dinner with the Addams family. She has no idea how to react to the exotic dishes made from unusual creatures that just so happen to be Wednesday's favorites. During the family conversation, everyone decides it's time to confess their secrets. Pugsley admits that he let his zombie go free because he felt sorry for him. After that, Pugsley leaves with Gomez to accept his punishment. Enid stays behind with Morticia, and suddenly Wednesday's mentor, the former headmistress Larissa Weems, appears. Morticia can see her, but Enid cannot. Weems tells Morticia that her own mother, Hester Famp, advised Wednesday to visit the grave of Rosalind Rothwood to restore her psychic powers. Instead, Wednesday and Enid ended up switching bodies. They have only until sunrise to undo it, and no one else can fix it for them. Meanwhile, Isaac visits Professor Orloff at Nevermore. He says he came to take back the power device from Orloff's aquarium, which he built long ago and used to extend Orloff's life. Isaac eventually takes it and then drains Orloff's brilliant mind. Agnes happens to see it, lets out a scream, but quickly turns invisible, so Isaac never notices her. Isaac later explains to his sister Francois and to Tyler that the device from Orloff's aquarium will serve as the power source for the machine in Willow Hill. Agnes, hidden in the trunk of their car, overhears everything. Back at the wolf cages, Enid, still in Wednesday's body, frees the real Wednesday, who is trapped inside Enid's body. While unlocking her, Enid scolds Wednesday for not telling her about her vision. Just then, Agnes calls Enid's phone and says she found Isaac and Francois with Tyler and that they are heading to Willow Hill. Wednesday and Enid rush off to save her. At Willow Hill, Tyler discovers that Isaac's device can strip an outcast of their powers. Since being a Hyde is more of a curse, and every transformation shortens his life, Francois now wants to rid herself of her abilities completely. Outside, Tyler senses that someone is spying on them. He catches Agnes and locks her up. Enid and Wednesday arrive just in time to rescue her. Wednesday, still stuck in Enid's body, transforms into a wolf and lunges at Tyler. But realizing that the laboratory is about to explode, the girls escape. Tyler, Isaac, and Francois also scramble to get out. Agnes is relieved when she learns it wasn't the real Wednesday who hurt her, but Enid in disguise. Wednesday sends Agnes back to Nevermore for safety. Then she and Enid hurry to the grave of Rosalind Rothwood. There, they place their hands on Rosalind's altar, open their hearts to one another, and share what they admire most about each other. Within a minute, the curse is lifted. Larissa then tells Wednesday that the vision in which Enid lost her life has vanished, but now another member of the Addams family is in danger, though it's not clear who. The story shifts 15 years into the past, to a bar called Tiki Tales. Barry Dort is talking with a bartender named Arnold Hunt, who in the future will become known as Gideon. Barry invites him to join a movement he is planning to create, called Morning Song. Arnold agrees, and this reveals that Gideon was only a front. The true founder of the cult was actually Barry Dort, the principal of Nevermore Academy. In the present day, Dort is reading a newspaper that names Arnold as the leader of the cult. While walking through the school, Dort runs into Bianca and her mother, Gabrielle. He admits that he has known Gabrielle for many years, since he was the one who first brought her into Morning Song and introduced her to her former husband, Gideon. Dort scolds them for living at Nevermore without contributing, and tells them it is time to return to work. Meanwhile, Enid talks with Wednesday in the school hallway, and then Agnes appears. Wednesday tells Enid that her vision has changed. The danger no longer threatens Enid directly, but now hangs over someone in the Addams family. To prevent this, Wednesday must find Isaac and the Galpin family before they reach her own. Agnes gives Wednesday a folder with information on Isaac Knight. Wednesday later confronts her parents for keeping Isaac a secret from her. Thanks to Agnes, she learns that Isaac was once Gomez's roommate. Gomez explains that Isaac was more than a roommate. He was his closest friend. Morticia adds that Gomez was Isaac's only friend. Gomez goes on to explain that he tried to protect Isaac from people who wanted to exploit his genius, one of them being August Stonehurst, who even built Isaac a laboratory in the Tower of Iago. Morticia reveals that Isaac believes science could cure his sister Francois and free her from the Hyde curse, since every transformation into a Hyde slowly weakens the host. Wednesday points out that Isaac has already recovered fully and reunited with Francois and Tyler, who never left town as they had promised. Later, Morticia and Wednesday meet privately in the botany garden. Wednesday confesses to her mother that Enid is no longer fated to die, but someone from the Addams family is now destined to face that fate. At Nevermore, Bruno approaches Enid to apologize for what happened. He tells her that he has already broken up with his girlfriend and chosen her. Enid hesitates, reminding him that he kept his relationship secret for an entire semester, and she is not sure if she can trust him again. Bruno promises to do everything he can to regain her trust and asks if he can accompany her to the upcoming gala. Enid agrees, but only as friends. Soon after, Capri summons Enid to her office. She questions her about escaping from the cage. Enid apologizes, but Capri makes it clear that this is not enough. She warns her that becoming an alpha is not something to be taken lightly, and if she is careless, she could remain trapped in her wolf form forever. Meanwhile, Tyler, Isaac, and Francois head into town to a veterinary clinic in search of temporary medicine for Francois. Wednesday discovers Francois's hideout, but no one is there. She picks up a butterfly that Thing found and brings it to Eugene. He explains that it is a carrion butterfly, a rare species. Eugene adds that this butterfly most likely came from Isaac's body and will eventually return to its host, no matter where he is. Back at Nevermore, Wednesday's grandmother, Hester Frump, arrives and meets with her granddaughter. Wednesday asks why she came, and Hester reveals that Principal Dort begged her to donate money to the school and even persuaded Morticia to invite her. But Hester admits that she only came to watch Dort humble himself by asking for investments, fully intending to refuse him in the end. She then invites Wednesday to spend a few summer days with her, and Wednesday agrees. Barry presents Hester with his grand idea of renovating the school and building a massive tower in her honor. Hester replies that she enjoyed the presentation, but she is not giving a single cent. At that moment, Bianca appears and uses her siren gift to hypnotize Hester, making her will her entire fortune to Nevermore. Afterward, Barry invites Bianca to his office, where she meets Gideon. Gideon reveals that the police are after him, and if he is caught, he will expose the truth, that Barry Dort is the real founder of the Morning Song cult. Gideon demands a share of Hester's inheritance, but Dort, blinded by greed, refuses and destroys him. Late at night, Wednesday visits Enid in her wolf cage. Just then, Ajax shows up with troubling news. Bianca's mother has gone missing. He suspects Dort is involved, so Wednesday decides to confront him. It turns out Dort has already gathered the Addams family in his office. He thanks Hester, Wednesday's grandmother, for her generous donation. Hester announces that she intends to give all her money to Nevermore during the upcoming gala, but she also declares that in this renewed school, there will be no place for so-called false outcasts without supernatural abilities, like Gomez. Stunned by Hester's strange behavior, the Addams family leaves the room. Wednesday then seeks out Bianca to learn if she is part of this scheme. Eventually, Bianca admits everything and reveals Dort's plan to steal her grandmother's fortune. But before Wednesday can act, Bianca uses her siren powers to make her forget. Agnes, who has been invisible the whole time, reappears after Bianca leaves and repeats everything to Wednesday. Shocked, Wednesday notices that Agnes has started dressing like her, even wearing a black wig. When she asks why, Agnes explains that she wanted Wednesday to understand how important she is to her. Wednesday, unimpressed, replies that cosplay is not her style and walks away. The day of the gala arrives. The Addams family attends, dressed in their finest. Dort makes his grand entrance with Morticia's mother, whom he crowns as queen of the ball. When Wednesday enters, she heads straight to Bianca and asks about her mother, Gabrielle. Bianca is confused and surprised that Wednesday remembers, despite erasing her memory earlier. Wednesday tells her to trust her and asks again where Gabrielle is. Bianca finally reveals that her mother is locked in Dort's office. Meanwhile, Enid meets Bruno, but their reunion is cut short when his girlfriend from the Philippines, Sophia, suddenly appears. She claims she came to surprise him. Enid, not wanting to be caught in an awkward love triangle, quietly excuses herself, though she feels a little down. Alone, Enid hears someone crying and wonders if it might be Agnes. The girl appears in tears, confessing that Wednesday still does not see her as a friend, no matter how hard she tries. Enid comforts her, telling her she should not hide behind someone else's identity, but instead embrace her true self. At the same time, Ajax manages to free Gabrielle from Dort's office. Afterward, Wednesday meets with Enid and explains that if they want to stop Dort, they will need more help, including from Agnes. Agnes and Enid kick off a fiery dance. During the routine, Agnes suddenly turns invisible, slips the protective necklace off Director Dort, the one shielding him from siren powers, and secretly hands it to Wednesday. Without raising any suspicion, she reappears and continues the dance with Enid. When the music ends, the audience bursts into applause for their dazzling performance. Bianca steps up to the microphone to speak. After exchanging a satisfied glance with her mother and noticing that Wednesday now holds Dort's necklace, she invites Director Dort and Morticia to the stage. With his protection gone, Bianca uses her siren gift to compel him to reveal the truth. Dort confesses everything, exposing how he orchestrated the gala and his schemes. But then he grabs Bianca and threatens to unleash his fire if anyone dares to move closer. Out of nowhere, Ajax steps in. He calls Dort's name, takes off his hat, and instantly turns him to stone. A chandelier hanging overhead crashes down, shattering his petrified form into pieces scattered across the floor. Bianca thanks Wednesday and Ajax for helping save her mother. Morticia and Gomez rush to their daughter, but just then, Hester arrives, saying she cannot wait to host Wednesday at her estate this summer. Wednesday coolly responds that, after her grandmother insulted her father, she has changed her mind. She adds that if Hester wants her to reconsider, she will need to make a generous donation to a fund in Gomez's honor. Proud of her granddaughter's boldness, Hester agrees to the deal. At that moment, Eugene runs in to tell Wednesday that Isaac is at the cemetery. Morticia, noticing that Pugsley is missing, anxiously asks where he is. Meanwhile, Pugsley is already at the cemetery when a corpse moth lands near him. Isaac appears, tells Pugsley he needs to ask him for a favor, then lulls him into sleep and takes him away. When Wednesday and Eugene reach the cemetery, they search desperately, but Pugsley is nowhere to be found. The next scene shows the police searching for Pugsley in both the forest and the cemetery. Soon, Sheriff Santiago reports to the Addams family that there are still no traces of the boy. He speculates that perhaps one of the family's old enemies is seeking revenge. At dawn, Weems suggests that Wednesday and Morticia combine their psychic abilities to locate Pugsley. However, Wednesday explains that she is currently unable to access her powers. In response, Weems proposes turning to another member of the family, Wednesday's grandmother, Hester. When Hester arrives at the Addams home, she questions why anyone would bother kidnapping someone as useless as Pugsley. Wednesday speculates that Isaac might be using Pugsley as bait to lure them into a trap. The family begins a seance, holding hands despite Wednesday's reluctance. Soon, Wednesday experiences a vision of her own parents, decades earlier, burying Isaac. Left with no other choice, Morticia decides to reveal what happened that night. More than 20 years ago, Gomez had met with Isaac and Francois in the Iago Tower, where Isaac claimed to have built a machine capable of permanently curing Francois. To power it, Isaac needed a source of energy, so he enlisted Gomez, who at the time had electrokinesis, to help him. Gomez agreed to aid his best friend. However, Isaac had secretly planned to sacrifice Gomez to save his sister Francois, even digging a grave in advance. When Morticia arrived at the tower, she discovered Gomez was on the brink of death and destroyed the machine. The resulting explosion killed Isaac and permanently stripped Gomez of his abilities. Isaac's body was buried in the grave he had prepared for Gomez. After the incident, August Stonehurst threatened Morticia and Gomez, warning them not to tell anyone, since the laboratory was a secret. Wednesday quickly realizes that Isaac has returned, intending to repeat the experiment, this time using Pugsley as the energy source. Despite Morticia and Hester warning her to stay back, Wednesday resolves to save her younger brother. Meanwhile, at Nevermore, Ajax approaches Enid, assuring her that he has matured and, even though they are no longer together, wants to remain her friend. Enid accepts his offer. After Ajax leaves, Agnes shows up with a list of potential suitors for Enid and suggests spying on them, but Enid declines. At Isaac's hideout, he promises Francois that no matter what happens, he will keep his word and cure her. At that moment, Tyler arrives and explains that he left false tracks several kilometers away to confuse anyone who might be following them. Back at Nevermore, Agnes says goodbye to Enid and Wednesday as her father comes to pick her up, and she heads home before the next school year begins. Enid warns Wednesday that she won't be able to help, as she will be occupied under protective custody. Wednesday promises to visit her the following day. Later, while Eugene tends to his bees in the barn, Isaac pays him a visit. Wednesday warns the sheriff that the tracks they found of Pugsley are merely a distraction. At the same time, Eugene delivers a box from Isaac to Wednesday. Inside, she finds a message inviting her to a midnight meeting at Skulltree. At Skulltree, Wednesday positions Thing with a crossbow at the base of a tree, instructing him to shoot Isaac at the right moment. When she confronts Isaac and Pugsley in the forest, Thing fires, but Isaac blocks the arrow. Tyler suddenly appears and seizes Thing. Isaac reveals the truth to Wednesday. Thing actually belongs to him. He explains that after that night when Morticia confronted him, this limb was the only part of his body that survived. Isaac believes a surge of energy brought the hand to life. Despite Thing's resistance, Isaac forces him to reattach to his body, regaining full control and telekinetic power. Using it, he traps Wednesday in a pit and buries her. Agnes witnesses everything and immediately runs to tell Enid. It turns out Agnes had escaped from her father because she could not leave Wednesday in danger. Alarmed, Enid rushes to the scene, and seeing Wednesday's pulse weakening with every second, makes a drastic decision. She sacrifices herself, permanently taking on the form of a wolf to dig up the grave and save her friend. Wednesday awakens and realizes the extent of her friend's sacrifice. Since the transformation occurred during a full moon, Enid can no longer return to human form, and she flees into the forest. Wednesday sends Agnes after her. Soon after, Wednesday's parents and Principal Weems arrive. Meanwhile, in the Iago Tower, Isaac uses his telekinetic powers to quickly and fully restore his device. On the way to the tower, Wednesday confronts her parents, criticizing them for not telling Thing the truth about his origin, but they defend themselves, saying they didn't want to burden him with such a painful reality. Upon arriving at the tower, Morticia sends Gomez to find Sheriff Santiago and call for backup, while she goes upstairs with Wednesday. Isaac's device powers up again, with Pugsley as the energy source. Because of the promise Isaac made to Francois, he immobilizes Tyler, since Francois has decided to sacrifice herself to protect her son. Tyler refuses to become a normie, but Francois reassures him that her actions are solely for his benefit, driven by deep love. As Isaac activates the electrical charge, he fails to notice Wednesday quietly approaching Tyler. Tyler asks her to end his life, but Wednesday refuses and instead works to free him. At the moment Tyler begins transforming into Hyde, Wednesday seizes the opportunity to rescue Pugsley. Tyler, now fully Hyde, attacks his uncle and then his mother. Francois transforms into Hyde as well, sparking a titanic clash between the two monsters that destroys the laboratory. The battle spills outside, while Gomez climbs the tower to regroup with the rest of the family. Determined, Wednesday prepares to confront Isaac directly, aiming to sever his arm and free Thing. At that moment, a massive explosion rocks the lab, sending a shockwave that leaves Francois hanging precariously on the building. Tyler tries to save his mother, but she chooses to let go. Her body is later recovered by the police, summoned by Gomez, while a grief-stricken Tyler cries out to the sky. At the top of the tower, everyone is safe except Morticia, who is pinned under the weight of one of the devices. Wednesday fears the worst, but to her relief, her mother opens her eyes and smiles, reassuring her that her fears were unfounded. Suddenly, Isaac attacks Wednesday with telekinesis, attempting to strangle her. In desperation, Morticia and Gomez plead with Thing to return to the family. Wednesday tries to free Thing, and although she initially fails, her efforts are not in vain. Thing resists Isaac, attacks him, and defeats him. Finally, Thing tears away the restraints that had bound him to Isaac and is reunited with his true family. The next day, Wednesday asks Thing what it feels like to realize he was once part of an evil scientist's scheme. Thing hesitates, uncertain, but Wednesday reminds him that while he can't change his origin or his past, he can choose his future. When she asks which path he will take, Thing tosses Isaac's ring, signaling that he will stay with Wednesday. Moments later, Agnes arrives with crucial news. She has tracked Enid, who is heading north, just 8 kilometers from the Canadian border. Meanwhile, at the cemetery, Capri approaches Tyler, assuring him that Hyde cannot survive alone and offering her support. She reveals that she knows other Hydes and hints that together they might manage. Tyler is wary, but Capri shares a personal secret. Her father was actually a Hyde. Elsewhere, Eugene bids farewell to Pugsley, handing him a box of cockroaches and inviting him to visit during the next vacation. Morticia decides to give Wednesday the diary of her long-deceased sister, Oilia, finally realizing that hiding secrets can have painful consequences. Soon after, Director Weems appears and informs Wednesday that by restoring her family bonds, she has also regained her psychic abilities. Weems then bids her farewell. Wednesday declares that she will not return home just yet. Instead, she leaves with her Uncle Fester to begin the search for Enid. While reading Ophelia's diary on the journey, Wednesday experiences a chilling new vision. Oilia is alive. She is being held in a basement by Hester Frump and has written on the wall a terrifying message: Wednesday must die.